Service Desk provides a fully automated request fulfillment capability. This is delivered through the use of the service catalog in the self-service environment. Request processes that ensure that all the proper authorizations, stock and other business checks that need to be carried out are done so, and then the use of LANDESK Process Manager as an automation layer that allows Service Desk to communicate with a variety of other tools. In this example, we're going to look a little bit at how we can use LANDESK Process Manager in conjunction with Service Desk to facilitate access to security groups inside Active Directory. What we plan to do is just show a little bit about how those processes work and a little bit of an insight into how LANDESK Process Manager's capability can be extended to request fulfillment activities which are beyond Active Directory, but hopefully will demonstrate the basic and fundamental mechanics of how we deliver that. So here we have a self-service environment. I'm going to go and have a look at my service catalog. Now, before I dive into making my request, let's just have a look at a file share. So the logic here is going to be access to a security group. This model can be extended to all sorts of resources that are delivered through Active Directory and security group membership. But for example, say I wanted to have access to this HR share. You can see when I try and access that, I'm getting an access denied error. So I'm going to go into the service catalog and I'm going to make a request for that to be fulfilled. So we'll go back to Service Catalog. You can see here that I've got a section called Data Access. And because I'm entitled to request access to that share, here it is, the HR share, the service owner will have to authorize that, but we're going to deliver it through an automated process. So let's add this to my cart. We'll check this out and we'll begin that automated process. So we'll check it out. I get a reference number and as a customer of the service catalog, I'm now seeing that my HR shared data is waiting for someone called Graham to authorize that. So let's have a look on the analyst side as to what's happening. We'll move across into WebDesk. Here's my request management dashboard. If I just refresh that, we can see here is my shared data waiting service authorization. So let's just have a quick look at that process. We can see that it's at a state of authorize reject. There's the status. If I just show the process flow, we'll just have a look at what's going to happen in the next couple of stages. So I can track down my service authorization, but if I look down to the bottom here, what we can see, and we'll drill in on this piece, is the fact that because we're going to automate this, we're going to communicate with Active Directory, we're going to understand what's happening, and then the system is going to automatically tell us when they've completed that. So let's move through that process flow and let's start that. So I'm going to authorize my request. Clearly this could be done in a number of different ways, but we're focusing in here the process flow. So everything inside Service Desk that's required to be done has been done, and you can see we're at a status of waiting automation. Now at any time we can manage and track what's happening with the process layer by looking at the dashboard that shows us what's going on. So I'm just going to drill in to my Process Manager dashboard. Here it is. And I can have a look and see if I've got any open requests. And those open requests, we can see here already straight away, because of the web services capability of Service Desk, that we are able to see that the Service Desk integration is working and it understands about the AD group. So why has that happened? Well, if I go back to request management a moment and let's have a look at the item that we're requesting, we can see against this item that there are a number of values that we've got set, particularly around process automation. So automation knows that it's going to do something, it's going to join an AD group, and if I'm going to leave it, it's going to unsubscribe from that AD group, and this is the name of the group here that is relevant in Active Directory. So whatever this resource is, if you have in there the security group name, then the join leave allows you to provide that capability of accessing. So we've done that piece, we've put that together. What we now need to do is to understand how this is communicating. So inside our design tools, we have the ability to call a web service. So if I go to my request process, and I will see within my request process that we have an object which calls a request web service automation. I'm not going to go into detail of this, but suffice to say that this allows us not only to request process automation and web services from within the LANDESK toolset, but this could be pointed out at any web service and execute that call to that web service. Service Desk and LANDESK Process Manager use web services for the inbound, and that uses the Event Manager tool. And if we have a look at Event Manager, we can see that there's two calls that have come back in off the back of my process. One that confirmed that the automation process has been started, and one that's confirmed that it's been finished. So we understand where we are in those process flows. So let's go back into my self-service environment and let's see what's happened here. So we'll go back to self-service. I'll just refresh my main self-service page. You can see my self-service request is now gone. If I have a look in my profile of subscribed services, we can now see that the HR data is available to us as a subscribed service. However, we do have to take into account the Microsoft world, and if I go back in here at the moment and I still try to access that share, I still don't have access to it. So I'm just going to do a quick log off and log on again. And this will allow the Active Directory information to refresh itself. So let's just do that. Password 1 is the password here. And now go back into my file browser, wait for the domain controller of the share, double click on the share, and there you can see now I've been provided access. Now Service Desk allows us to take that access away as well down the line, which you saw there. But let's just finish off now by having a look at what's actually been driving all of that, and that's the tool LANDESK Process Manager. So here we are in LANDESK Process Manager, and it is a workflow based tool. It's all drag and drop. You can see here the main automation process that we called from Service Desk, and it has a number of different options. Install software, uninstall software, join AD group, leave AD group, even creating an Active Directory user from scratch, and we can work through that process. Wherever I am looking at information, I have parameters on the right hand side, but ultimately what I'm given through LANDESK Process Manager to bring onto these process flows is a number of different process actions. These are all coded into LANDESK Process Manager, but they provide a number of entry points into other systems. So as you can see in this top level system, there are a lot of low-level, if you like, operations we can carry out. We can JavaScript, PowerShell, we can run executable, SQL, VB script. We can do some approval stuff from there. We can run web services, wait for particular points in time, run other workflows, all sorts of interesting things in there. And if I scroll down to the bottom here, we see the Active Directory set. Directly into Active Directory, the adding, removing groups. We can even create and delete groups, or users, update information, update accounts, all sorts of things. These are all keyed in. So let's have a look at the sub-process that we're using, which was the join AD group. So bring up the join AD groups. It's a very simple process, but what it boils down to is this one process action in the middle here. And if I have a look at the properties of this process action, let me just open this out. We can see that what we've done is when we use that web services call in Service Desk, we passed a bunch of parameters through to a listener in the LANDESK Process Manager waiting to execute the process that's required, and a number of parameters turn into runtime. So you can see very simply here that there's the group name as a parameter. We saw that in the definition of the service catalog item, and here's the username, which has obviously been passed through as the AD user account. The Active Directory connection is a service account into AD, so rather than having lots of people having to have access to AD and its ability to give proliferation of domain admin type accounts, we have one account which accesses Active Directory as a service account. We build our processes and we carry out and execute those processes on demand. So we can do a number of different things here. We focused in on particularly AD and some other things. If you think about the AD model, there's a piece around that says, well, any resource, even if it's integrated to SCCM, if it's fully integrated correctly, then membership of a security group in AD provides SCCM capabilities as well. But it also allows this to be a simple drag and drop. So for example, if I wanted to run SQL and I wanted to do that, I could drag and drop onto my process flow. I have some conditions that I might want to edit about how this SQL operator is working, and then when I go into my advanced function, I'm able to actually explain what that SQL is and what it's like. So there's that ability to define the code as well. So the LANDESK Process Manager tool provides that automation link between Service Desk and other systems. We've looked at a particular example which is around Active Directory, but we can use this to execute other web services calls and all those other actions that we saw in the list here. Clearly, some of those things will require some design and build in terms of the fact that we are talking about a system-to-system integration. And the last thing really to think about is how LANDESK Process Manager reacts when it gets something in. So the way it manages that is the concept of event listeners, and this is really the key to the starting of a process where we have a number of different type of event listeners. Some of those can be based around SQL, so you can see here I've got one which is polling a SQL statement. When I get a result set, start a process. But the one that we've been using today is a web service. So all it's going to do is wait for the LANDESK Process Manager web service to be called, and it will then pass the parameters on that have come from the external web service. So it provides a very flexible platform, a very useful tool, but very, very powerful, because the integration between this automation process and the process that we deliver inside Service Desk to support the business activity means that what we can do here is we can provide a very joined up and very powerful automation layer to the product, which will integrate with pretty much any other tool that's out there, providing you have the right design and the right security groups, access, and all the correct configuration of that. So that's a brief overview of how we're managing that fully automated request fulfillment process, but particularly looking a little bit into how LANDESK Process Manager interacts with Service Desk and other tools that you might want to use to automate that request.